Hey, what's going on YouTube? Here's another video for your programming pleasure. I made a couple flashcards of some of the stuff I'm going to be working on. So these are like certain words and concepts I'm trying to memorize. So let's get going. First one is variables. Are used to temporarily store data. That's what a variable is. Float. Numbers written with a decimal point. Integers. A whole number or number that is not a function. Arguments. A value passed to a function or method when calling the function. There are two types of arguments: keyword arguments and arguments preceded by identifiers, e.g. name in a function called or passed as a value in a dictionary passed by double asterisk. This one is kind of hard to understand, but yeah, this is raw and uncut, but no one's watching anyways. The asterisk in quotations multiplies. What's a boolean? A boolean is a true or false. In mathematics or mathematical logic, Boolean algebra is a branch of algebra in which the value of the variable and the truth value, truth and false, usually denote land or retrospectively. I do not know what I just read, but keep going. Input, another flashcard. Input function that asks to receive input from the user. How to create input in Python. Basically, you write the variable name, you put input equals, and then the question that you plan to ask. Computational thinking, CT. This is important for you future developers. Understand what this means. This is key. Is a problem-solving process that includes a number of characteristics and dispositions, formulating problems in a way that enables us to use a computer and other tools to help us solve them, logically organizing and analyzing data. Remember this, CT, computational think. This is very important. This is vital for your success. Difference between functions and methods. That's so weird. I always hear people talk about, oh, that's not a function, oh, that's not a method. It's a, let's find out what this says. A method commonly refers to a function that is property of a class, either a statistic or instance method, while a function is the more general term for the procedure that takes an argument and returns a value after being called. Methods are functions. Okay. Hoopla. Python while loops. This is fun. Statements, advertisements. A while loop states in a Python program language repeatedly executes a target statement as long as a given condition is true. So it can go on for infinity, so be careful with those while statements. If statement. An if statement is a program conditional statement that, if proved true, performs a function or displays the information below. Is in general example of a if statement not specific to any particular programming language. Yeah, if statements are a lot safer than while statements. This one is called logical operators. If both operators are non-zero, then condition becomes true. A and B is false, called logical operators. If any of the two errands is non-zero, then the condition becomes true. Some of these I just copied straight out of Google, so I don't really understand what I said, but let's keep moving along. Two-dimensional lists. Okay, this is easy. It's a list inside of a list. So when you're making your list, remember, two-dimensional list is when you create a list and you put another list within that. And a three-dimensional list, I guess, would be a list inside of a list inside of a list, if you go that deep. But by then, I think you're getting into characters and objects, and classes. So we'll see. Python for loops. There's a for loop. A for loop is used for iterating over a sequence that is either a list or tuple, a directional asset or string. With the for loop, we can execute a set of statements once for each item in the list, tuple or set etc., etc. String formatting programs. This one is basic common sense. Use C-style strings formatting to create a new formatted string. The percentage sign operator is used to format a set of variables enclosed in a tuple, a fixed size list, together with the formatted string which contains normal text together with an argument specifier, special symbols like the percentage sign and a S and a percentage sign and a D. Wow. Logical operators. Here we go again. Logical operators. The logical operator in Python are used to combine the true and false values of variables or expressions so you can figure out their results. True value. There are logical operators and available in Python. 1. And returns true only if both errands are true. Elif statements. If and else. An elif statement allows you to check multiple expressions for true and execute a block of code as soon as one of the conditions evaluates to true. Similar to the else, the elif statement is optional. You need an if statement. If statement. If statements are control flow statements, which helps us to run a particular code only when a certain condition is satisfied. There are other controlled flow statements available in Python, such as if, else, else if, and nested if, and etc. Else statements. An else statement contains the block of code that executes if the conditional expression in the if statement resolves to a 0 or a false value. Back to the booleans, keep that in mind. The else statement is an optional statement, and there could be a most only one else statement following an if statement. So you can have an if statement and multiple elif statements, but you can only have one else statement. Break statement. Python break statement advertisements. It terminates the correct loop and resumes execution at a 0 statement, just like the traditional break statement in C. Oh man, this is before I got involved in coding, but that's a little history for you guys there. The most common use of a break when some external conditions triggers required a nasty exit from a loop. Wow, or hasty. In operators. In operators, the in operator is used to check if a value exists in a sequence or not. Evaluates to true if it finds a variable in the specific sequence and other false otherwise. The Python program to illustrate finding common members in a list. Or operators. At least one conditional must be true. Remember, if you hear any sound effects or anything that doesn't sound like part of this, I am the pandemic programmer. I'm learning to program right now during this pandemic, and I'm here with my parents, and we're just trying to make it work, so excuse me. And operators. Both conditions must be true. And operators. These are important. Ands and or. But I'm not at or yet, but I got a not. A not operator in Python. Not is a logical operator in Python that will return true. The expression is false. That not operator is used if statements. If X is true, then not will evaluate as false. Otherwise, true. So not is the opposite of whatever is given. So in a Boolean statement, whether it's true, if it's not to be true, then it's to be false. So Shakespeare. So square brackets and syntax. Square brackets are lists while parentheses are tuples. A list of multiple meanings can be changed in context. Curly brackets. Curly brackets are used in Python to define dictionaries. A dictionary is a data structure that maps one value to another, kind of like an English dictionary maps a word to its definition. Math modules. What is a math module in Python? A math module is a standard module in Python that is always available. To use mathematical functions under the module, you have to import the module using import math. It gives access to the underlying C library functions. Wow, old school. First program. Your first program is usually hello world. Whatever you want to display needs to be written inside the brackets enclosed within double quoted quotes. Double quotes. It could be the double quotes or the single quotes, but this is what your first program should look like. It should be print, the parentheses, the quotes, and hello world. Object-oriented programming. This is very special for Python. Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm based on the concept of objects which can contain data in the form of fields and coded in the form of procedures. A feature of object is an object procedure that can access and often then modifies the data field of the object with which they are associated. When you see this number sign, that's to comment. So in other words, the program won't execute what is written after this number sign. Anything written following the number sign is considered a single line comment in Python, written only in a single line. Variables acts as containers to store values. These values can be anything from numbers, text, entire functions, and just like the labels in a case of the bookshelf, variables are identified by variable names. The value stored in the variable can be used further in our programs. Variables, how to use. You can retrieve by referring to them by name. Storing data in variables. The variable's name, value are assignment operators and are the things required to store the values in the variable. Example, and then I got a little example, but whatever. Strings, text values, sequence of characters that can be letters or numbers, even specific characters. Anything written between quotations, double quotes, or single quotes in a string in Python. Floating point, numbers containing a decimal point. That's a float. Variable examples. That's an example. I don't know. Expressions are represented by values. They are different from statements in the fact that the statement of so many while expressions are representations of values. Python has some advanced constructs through which you can represent values, and hence these constructions are also called expressions. When to use single quotes? When you have outside quotes, double quotes. Yeah. When you must use double quotes? When you have outside single quotes. Expressions is a piece of code that produces a value. A string, a piece of code that is a series of characters. While loops, the syntax of while loops in Python programming language. In while expression statements, here statements may be single statements or a block of statements and conditionals that may be expressed and true on any non-zero value. The loop, it narrates while the condition is true. Alright, so now we're getting close to the end of my video. I wasn't able to get through all the flashcards. I have a ton of them, so I'll probably make another video of these rapid flashcards and just watch this type of video so that you can get practice and familiar with the jargon or the language. Anyways, thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's just me messing around, trying to learn this Python programming language. See you in the next one. Like, follow, tell your sister, tell your uncle. I'm doing all these videos for you guys to learn with me and grow. Bye.